In this lesson, we're going to examine equity lenses. No authority can tell us the correct way to view reality or how to understand equity. Our equity lenses are situated in our lived experiences. Surely some people don't care about equity as long as they are benefiting, but two people who do care about equity may have different equity lenses because of their different life experiences. In education, knowledge and skills for working with data can also influence people's equity lenses. We're going to take a look at some examples. Let's look at Mrs. Smith's life experiences. She grew up in an upper-middle-class white family. She went to integrated schools but had no minorities or low-income students in her classes because she was in the advanced track. She assumed that tracking was merit-based. Without really thinking about it, she came to believe that minorities and low-income students are not as academically successful because she never saw them in advanced classes. Then, she became a principal in a district which happened to refer to low-income and minority students as academically at risk. In her professional life as a principal, Mrs. Smith has received federal grant funds that rewarded innovative ideas for activities to do with at-risk students. There were no expected academic outcomes. She got these grants during the era when grants were given just to provide activities for at-risk students. She has attended poverty training that taught about the differences between low-income, middle-income, and high-income students, and how those differences account for different expectations of academic success. Her school received Title I funds that could only be used with low-income students. The services paid for with Title I funds were all designed for low-achieving students. She has no technology or data skills, and although she gets a file of reading and math scores of the students in her school, she doesn't look at it in detail because she doesn't have the skills for doing so. She recognizes the big achievement gap between low-income students and not low-income students, and between white and minority students. This makes sense to her because of her beliefs and her skills. Let's take a look at the beliefs and skills that situate her equity lens. Mrs. Smith believes that at-risk students, which to her means low income or minority, just benefit from innovative activities. There is no cause and effect involved, like how a reading program might cause students to learn to read better. Rather, she sees the purpose of the program to simply raise the quality of life of the at-risk students. Maybe if their quality of life is better, they'll find it easier to read. She doesn't know that she has access to data and data tools that she could use to identify specifically those students who are reading below grade level by name. That is, that she could print a list of the names of the students she needs to work with. Instead, she assumes that the poorer a student is, the more academically at risk they are. She has had no reason to develop skills for working with data. In her equity lens, she doesn't need any data. Here is somebody with completely different life experiences. Mrs. Jones is from a rural middle-class family. She went to integrated schools and did very well. She scored at the highest level on standardized tests and earned A's in all her classes. Even so, she was never recommended for advanced courses. She told her school counselor that she wanted to enroll in more challenging courses and was told that she had to have a teacher recommendation, and she didn't have one. She knew that tracking was not based on merit, because she knew that she was more academically successful than many of the high-income white students who were in advanced classes. She went to college to become an educator. She learned how to work with data because she knew that she would need data to identify the high-scoring students and the students who needed extra help. You can't know who needs what just by looking at them. Mrs. Jones gets a file of reading and math scores, and she can sort it and print lists of students who are ready for the most challenging courses and lists of students who need additional support. She has experienced pushback from powerful parents and from some teachers. The parents believe that if they see more than a few minority students in a class, this means it is not the best class, and they want their children to be in the best class. Let's take a look at the beliefs and skills that situate Mrs. Jones' equity lens. Mrs. Jones believes that students who are at risk are students who are not reading at grade level, and that they might benefit from additional time and resources designed to improve their reading skills. She looks for reading programs that have been shown to improve reading skills of low-performing students. She also believes that high-achieving low-income and minority students will thrive if given opportunities to enroll in advanced courses. She believes this because she thrived once she got to college and could enroll in any courses that she wanted to. She has great data skills. When she needs to do something with data and does not know how, she knows how to find somebody who can help her. Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones have very different equity lenses. Both of them are well-meaning. However, they're going to run their schools completely differently, and they're going to get very different outcomes, both believing that they are doing what is best for kids, and both believing that they're promoting equity. Mrs. Smith believes she is promoting equity, and is providing activities for low-income and minority students that will raise the quality of their life experiences. She believes putting them into advanced courses would damage them because they are at risk academically. She wants equity, not equality, and through her lens, placing low-income and minority students into remedial courses is equitable. Mrs. Jones, on the other hand, views this as systemic racism. When Mrs. Smith sees this cartoon, it reinforces for her that her equity lens is the correct and most just. To her, equality would mean putting academically struggling students into courses that they would surely fail. The remedial work and innovative activities that she is providing for them is like giving them another box so that they can see over the fence. Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Smith's equity lenses are not at all the same. If Mrs. Jones talks about equity with Mrs. Smith, she would need to realize this and use different words. Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones might view each other's running of a school and of grant-funded programs as crazy, or each might think that the other does not support equity in education. When EdStar Analytics evaluates grant-funded programs, we need to understand the equity lens of the person running the program. Understanding the context in education is important for understanding how people formed their equity lens. Our first presentation reviewed the historical context. Understanding other people's equity lenses is difficult but important. We can't say that any one equity lens is correct. We can, however, say which lens leads to which outcomes. We've been doing research and evaluation in education for about 30 years, and we can see what different equity lens paths have led to. Without the ability to understand the equity lens of different people, we would just think that some of our jobs were crazy. Grant-funded projects call for certain outcomes, and we know which equity lenses lead to those outcomes, so we can pretty easily predict which programs will get the desired outcomes and which won't.